Thanks for the few of you who have joined early. Oh, Malcolm, lovely to see you. If you want in the chat, you can just write your name and perhaps what organization you represent, just so we can share with each other all who's on the call. Thanks. We will start once we get a good quorum. Speak to you soon. Morning, everyone who's joined. Thanks for joining early. We're just going to wait for a few more of our delegates to join before we kick off. If you want to just write in the chat who you are, maybe where you're from or what organization you represent, that would be really good. Thanks. See you soon. So again, just welcome everyone. We're just going to wait for a few more minutes for a few stragglers to join us, and we will kick off in no time at all. So it looks like we've got some good regional representation: Limpopo, Durban, Cape Town, and even Armenia. So fantastic. Again, just a few minutes and we will kick off. In fact, we'll kick off at about 5 past. So good morning, everyone. It's really wonderful to be with you today. I think we're going to have a really good discussion around such an important part of life in South Africa, and especially given the context that we all know. We know that we've got massive challenges around employment, especially. And although we've got to take different approaches, one of the ones that we have to start immediately, that we have to get right immediately, that we've got to make a huge strides in, is creating the fundamental building blocks of education for our nation's children, and not just those children in middle class suburbs, etc., but right across South Africa in the most vulnerable areas. So my name is Bruce Lazel. I'm the CEO of World Vision South Africa. World Vision is a global organization. We've got about 37,000 people operating in 100 countries around the world. We've been operating for about 70 years, and our focus is on the most vulnerable children around the world. So we choose to work in areas where society, where the community, and where the children are exposed to the most extreme vulnerability. So as we talk right at the moment, we have operations in Ethiopia, in the DRC, in Afghanistan, and in our country. World Vision South Africa has been around for 54 years. We've worked across the entire country, but today we are working in very deep rural areas in Limpopo, in the Eastern Cape, in KwaZulu-Natal, and the Free State. We're involved in a wide variety of programs, but we are wanting, as we go forward, to focus on 4 crucial areas. So we want to be focusing on education, and hence the fact that we're having this conversation with you today. We're going to be focusing on WASH, so water, sanitation, and hygiene, ensuring that these communities have access to water, appropriate sanitation, gender-specific sanitation, and obviously hygiene, so access to water for washing and the like, crucial as we still deal with this global pandemic. Then we're going to be focusing on livelihoods. So in these communities we work in, how do we create upliftment? How do we create the ability for people to run their own businesses in a sustainable long-term way to generate their own sustainability? And with that, we have a focus on youth and women empowerment. So we really want to uplift women in the community. So much research shows that if it's the women in the community who hold on to that to the funds that they earn and invest it back into the community and back into their families. So we've got a strong focus on that. And then we obviously want to remain working in the health field in terms of HIV and TB and obviously COVID at this particular time. But today we're going to be focusing on early childhood development. And we've got some outstanding presenters, some real world-class people, both from South Africa, and we've got Victoria, who's going to be dialing in from Armenia, but we will get to that in a few moments. So I really want you to engage with us. So if you look at the chat, I'd love you to write about who you are, perhaps the organization you work for and where you come from. But I'd also like you to perhaps now over the next few minutes, just write a brief sentence around your own experience of early childhood development in your context. So my age means I grew up in a very segregated South Africa, and I was given opportunities that the majority of South Africans didn't have. So I had a mother who got to stay at home. I got to go to a nursery school from a young age. These are things which the majority of our population don't get to experience. If I think of the benefit that was to me, I now get to ask the question, how do we make sure that our current generation of children experience that same opportunity to lay down the foundation blocks that will see them to have success in life? So I'm just going to introduce our first speaker. So our first speaker is Victoria Sarguson. And Victoria is, she's actually worked for 25 years in the public health sector. She's a medical doctor, but she did a career change and she has joined World Vision, and she is the education technical advisor, and her area of expertise is around sexual reproductive health, HIV, maternal, newborn, and child health. And for the last 5 or 6 years, she has intensively engaged in developing and validating early childhood development models focused on the first 1,000 days of life. So I'm going to hand over to Victoria, and she's going to present some amazing things to you. Thanks so much. Over to you, Victoria. You just need to unmute yourself, sorry.
Thank you so much for the great introduction, and I'm really excited to be in this very important webinar, and Ecd is my passion. It started maybe 12 years ago, and I'm in this area and probably will continue to working in this science or in this area. So I'm from Armenia, as Bruce mentioned. It's a far country in the Southern Caucasus, in Central or Eastern, more part of Eastern Europe. Those who don't know where is Armenia is, it's a small, tiny country. So as Bruce mentioned, I work for World Vision, and I'm the technical advisor for education, and my work is mostly to support the early childhood development programming. And let me start with the presentation. Okay, I hope everyone can see my slides. So in the next 15 minutes or 20, I will bring you through early childhood development programming approaches that World Vision has developed. And first of all, before going to that, let's say why Ecd is so important, yeah? Because the global situation statistics showing that almost 50%, yeah, 250 million children are under 5 in low and middle income countries are at risk of not meeting their developmental potential. And this is coming from Lancet Series 2016. And which is signaling, yeah, the urgent needs to respond. And here are some risks, yeah, the major risks that are affecting on early childhood development. And the first one, not surprising, it's the poverty, also malnutrition, children experiencing or witnessing neglect, abuse, violence, poor access to essential services such as health or preschool education, the low parenting education or literacy level, the poor health conditions such as chronic illnesses or disabilities, the poor environmental conditions, wash or stressful environments such as emergency contexts, and many more, and which are resulting into a variety areas of life, yeah, and so that people could thrive. And as Bruce mentioned, it's affecting on the employment opportunities, yeah. First of all, affecting on child learning abilities, yeah, being able to succeed at school. Then also about earning abilities, yeah, employment opportunities, abilities to build relationships, healthy relationships with the peers, with the friends, with colleagues. Early onset of chronic illnesses such as asthma, cancer, or cardiovascular diseases or diabetes, the mental illnesses, the risky behaviors such as substance misuse or violence, crime, incarceration. And you can see these are so many, and those are so central, yeah, and important for thriving. And some of these risk factors or behaviors are passing to generations. For example, the externalizing or violent behaviors can transform or pass up to 2 or 3 generations. Again, why Ecd? Because this brain science development has started in the last decades, and which is indicating that brain development, especially during the first few years of life, is rapidly growing, yeah. And on the image on the left side, you can see the sensitive periods of brain development, and on other axis you can see the years, the first years of life, and you see that many of the trajectories of brain development, yeah, the sensory motor or important life skills such as recognition or identification of numbers or ways or habitual ways of responding. These are reaching the peak at the age of 2 or 3, and some are even closing by the age of 4 or 5. So how effectively we use this most critical period, these windows of opportunity where we can make a huge shift in child development. And on the left, on the right side, you can see another important message, which is saying that the highest return on investment to human development is when we invest into the early years. Yeah, the programs are targeting the very early years. And then you can see that gradually the return on investment is reducing. This is by Professor Heckman, Nobel Prize winner, that has suggested or give this graph. So where ECD is now, yeah, below here on the left side below, you can see the nurturing care framework. I'm sure many of you have seen this. This framework has been launched in 2018 by World Health Organization, UNICEF, WHO, World Bank, and many academic universities, stakeholders, including the civil society, and who are saying that for child development, yeah, to reach his or her full potential, child needs health, nutrition, yeah, something, it's not new, yeah, we're doing this health nutrition for centuries, but it's not enough for child to thrive. Yeah, it's maybe for survival, yes, but children also need early learning opportunities. They also need security and safety, and also responsive caregiving. And this nurturing care framework is at the heart of the sustainable developmental goals, yeah, and which is contributing to multiple, if not all of the SDGs. As Bruce mentioned, we're building the social human capital if we invest into the early years with this holistic approach for promoting child development. On the right side, you can see World Vision Promise, our Promise strategy to 2030. And there are 8 objectives, child well-being objectives that we have prioritized, and ECD is directly contributing to 6 objectives. And 1 year ago, we just designed one more indicator, particularly for ECD, that is children 0 to 6 experiencing quality care and education. Okay, now coming to how to do ECD. And within World Vision, we again invested a lot of efforts and resources to produce the models for which are built across the life cycle continuum. And the first one is Go Baby Go model for children under 3 years age. This is a parenting model and which promotes nurturing care, but mostly primarily focusing on early learning, responsive caregiving, and security safety domains of the nurturing care. The other model is Learning Rules model for 3 to 6 age group children. Again, parenting component remains central because children are still spending most of their time at home. And the Early Learning Center, where we ensure that the centers meet the minimum and quality standards, especially in teaching skills, yeah, teaching approaches, also the physical environment, the teaching learning materials, and also the joyful atmosphere, the social emotional atmosphere, yeah. And the last model is for 7 to 11 years old, which is called Unlock Literacy, and which is promoting reading with comprehension, yeah. But in this presentation, I'm not going to speak about that. So the critical elements of the ECD model's designs are, first of all, it's timing. Yeah, we learned that brain development, and also not only brain, but health, nutrition, the foundation happens in early years. So how we use this critical time with the interventions to promote early childhood development. In terms of content, those are well-structured, contextualized curriculums, and aligned with the nurturing care framework, and as I said, promoting holistic child development. Both models are behavior change models and rich in experiential learning opportunities with coaching, with supervision, with feedback elements, components. And in terms of intensity and dosage, we did a lot of research and also exploring the secondary, the external literature, and so that we ensure this minimum dosage and intensity that can result in impact. We're still in progressing in investing into research to do the evidence building for our ECD models in emergency context, so that we see what is the minimum cycle, what is the minimum parenting program cycle. And the training and supervision are inbuilt into those models, so that we ensure there is competency-based training and there is supportive supervision and feedback in place, and monitoring is happening to ensure there is fidelity of implementation. And for delivery platforms, we use the home visits for both models, the group sessions, and also the platforms such as health clinics, the food distribution, the early learning centers, the child-friendly spaces. All these and more, they sit here. In a snapshot, this is how Go Baby Go model look like. These are the core models. For home visiting, we ensure four home visits minimum, and more for the most vulnerable families. And the length is minimum. The parenting program model, the minimum is 6 months up to 12 months. And then we have the parenting group sessions in addition to home visits, minimum 10 core group sessions, and additional, depending on the context, father sessions. If fathers are not coming, then we're orienting, sensitizing them about the importance of ECD, and one optional session for children in crisis. And to ensure that model is sustainable, we also have interventions that are building and strengthening the community-based structures and systems, such as the workforce development of and implementation of ECD action plans or events, and also engagement of the community leaders. This is how the learning roots core model components look like, parenting component, and you can see the topics here that we are covering. All is to build their knowledge, understanding, and also the skills to promote child holistic development in those 4 areas. And in terms of system strengthening, these are core elements. First of all, the teaching skills, approaches, pedagogies, so that the teachers know what is ECD, how brain develops, how they can promote, how children learn, so that they teach appropriately or help children to learn. Or what are the practices, positive discipline practices in terms of classroom management, what the daily routine should look like, so that it's built around those important life skills in 4 domains. And also a place, the learning center as a place, venue for integrated support, how we can integrate health or protection or WASH for promoting child holistic development. And the important elements such as coaching, continuous professional development, community actions, also advocacy efforts at the national, at the local level. Some resources, not all of them, but just to give an example, and because of COVID, we worked a lot to adapt our 2 programming models. All those core components that you have just seen, we have adapted to ensure that models are also implementable during the complete lockdown, and where is partial lockdown, and where there is freeze from the after lockdown. And we also reduced some parenting materials. Those have also been adapted during COVID time. This is for 0 to 6 age group children. For parents, how they can do this playful parenting with their children, and which are suggesting what parents can do for different age group children to promote their cognitive, their social, emotional, language, or motor development. And another interesting material, the toy creation guide, which is these resources actually are available for external, posted on World Vision site and available. We have produced a lot of evidence, especially for 0 to 3 age group for Go Baby Go model. The first ever research that we have done are in Armenia, in Palestine, and models showing strong impact, significant impact on child development, and also on caregiver mental health that we did in Palestine. In Sudan, we integrated Go Baby Go into the community case management of acute malnutrition, treating children with severely malnourished. And we see that the treatment outcomes of these children are significantly improved. For learning routes, we are in progress. We're investing more to build stronger evidence, but this one is coming from Afghanistan. Again, we see that child development and parenting practices have been significantly improved due to this model. This is a snapshot of what is the current portfolio of 0 to 6 age group ECD by October 2021. And you can see the color codes, the green one indicating the 0 to 3 program model, the purple one indicating the 3 to 6 age group, and some countries are doing the continuum. And the stars are indicating the research, and you can see the models are well scaled up across the continents. Here you can also see the link. This is to World Vision Central. So this is to World Vision staff and who can access all these 3 models, education models, and learn more about it. And I want to finish with this last slide, saying that ECD is a powerful equalizer to reduce the gap. We know that some children, even from birth, some are at advantage positions, some are more at disadvantage position. Children, for example, with low birth weight, or born to mothers with postnatal depression, postpartum depression, or some other conditions. Then, they start. There is already a gap between these children, and this showing the trajectory of brain and behavior development, of an advantaged children, those who are living in or born in and living in more advanced position, and this is for children who are in disadvantaged position and the risk factors that they are exposed. And you remember what that I have mentioned about those. And only with multi-sector programs and policies, we are able to reduce that gap. ECD is not one sector thing. It's not about education, not about health or nutrition, but all sectors need to come together and in a coordinated manner to promote ECD. So I want to finish with this and handing over to Bruce, and welcome. Your questions are very welcome. I'm happy to address all of them. Thank you.
Victoria, thanks so much. That's absolutely amazing. I think it was your first slide. That's the shocking one, right? 43% of children in low-income countries are exposed to problems as a result of lacking early childhood development programs. And then your last one, which was really fascinating, which is it's easy when you live in countries like South Africa and the many other countries that are vulnerable, just to look at the size of the problem and say, what can we do? Is it even possible to make any inroads, or is this just what we've got to deal with? And that last slide, just to show that when we implement these programs, when we have a nation that's invested in our children and putting money and programming behind it, we can make that change. Can I ask you a question? Because you have a kind of a global view of ECD programs and the like around the world. Is there a country that stands out to you that is doing a good job from so I'm not talking about World Vision, but just, let's say, from a governance point of view, that is making strong inroads here? And can you name one thing that you think is the catalyst to change?
Yes, we have great examples, and one of the favorite examples is the experience from Palestine. And we are doing this programming in Palestine starting from 2017, where they integrated Go Baby Go into their health and nutrition programming model, which is a home visiting model. And now they are scaling it up. They have scaled it up horizontally in all areas where we are working. But from the very beginning, the conversation with the government, with the Ministry of Public Health, with the national and district level authorities started from the very beginning, because they need to get that ownership. of what we are doing, because World Vision cannot implement forever. How we ensure that there is smooth transition from our implementation from a small scale to a bigger scale. And this is only possible if we partner, we cooperate with the government from the very beginning. The other important thing I have to mention is about building the evidence, because evidence, the numbers speak loudly. And evidence not only about the impact, but also about the processes, how we are implementing, because often this is where we lack that information. Okay, we have these great numbers. How did you do that? What are the essential elements that help you to build or to reach that impact? And we have missed some opportunities, but right now, maybe another important country or effort that we are doing in Rwanda, we are doing a research, very interesting research, where we are piloting the model. Actually, we integrated these two Go Baby Go and Learning Roots model into one model, and we are implementing it for the refugee, in the refugee settings. And we have come up with different dosages, high dose and minimum dose, because sometimes the refugee people, they are transiting, they are moving. So we want to see what is the impact of different dosages on children, on refugees living in the camp communities and also in host communities. So another interesting thing. And this evidence is going to help us to speak stronger with a stronger voice, and also where possible to also have some kind of cost analysis, which we done, by the way, in Palestine. We also run some cost analysis, cost effectiveness analysis, and which helped us to have that ownership and full embracing of our interventions. And some of the interventions now government is taking over in Palestine and responsible, let's say, for training, for supervision, for some other additional efforts.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It was such a pleasure having you join us today. Guys, if anybody wants to ask questions of Victoria, you can type them in the chat. There will be time at the end where we're going to be able to ask questions and have responses from our the full panel. One thing that I love about World Vision is that we've got all these amazing programs, and we've got no desire to keep them to ourselves. Our modus operandi is to work in communities for, let's say, up to 15 years, so that we can hand over, establish the foundation, and then hand over to the local communities, to local government, to take these programs going forward. So again, if anybody's interested about learning more, how to partner with us, please get in touch, and we will share that. So we're going to move on to our next guest, and it's the wonderful Eric Atmo. And if you have been involved in early childhood development in any way in South Africa, this would be a name that you know for sure. So Eric is a PhD graduate from Stellenbosch University, and he's currently the extraordinary associate professor in the Department of Education Policy Studies at Stellenbosch University. He leads the Center for Early Childhood Development, a national non-profit organization. Eric completed his PhD in 2019, and the title of his PhD was An Interpretive Analysis of Early Childhood Development Policy Trajectory in Post-Apartheid South Africa. Eric, it's such a pleasure to have you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk about this really, really important piece of work. So over to you. Thank you so much.
Bruce, thank you very much, and good morning to everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. The request that came our way was to speak broadly about early childhood in South Africa. And I intend to do it in 15 minutes. I do not need to cover at all anything about the importance of early childhood development. Victoria has done that absolutely brilliantly. So Victoria, thank you. You've set a good path to follow. I think it's common knowledge, or it's gaining traction, that an investment in quality early childhood development is the most powerful. Rights and welfare of the child speaks about early childhood development, and the Sustainable Development Goals speak about early childhood development. So it's an activity, an approach, a program whose time has come, and I really think we should stop debating, is it important? Victoria has told us exactly how important it is. So I'm going to look at the big picture of early childhood development in South Africa and look at some of the positives, but also some of the challenges that we face. Since April 1994, the first democratic election, there has been progress in early childhood development. Firstly, our constitution mentions the right to basic education, including early childhood development. The government in 1995 ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which no previous government had done. Government instituted free medical and health care for pregnant women and for children aged under 6. A directorate for early childhood development was established in what was then called the Education Department, now Basic Education. There's been a chief directorate in early childhood development within National Social Development since February 2015. We've had various white papers on ECD. We've had a national audit of provisioning done. We've got subsidization of ECD centers, both by social development and of grade R classes by basic education. We've got a Children's Act and an Amendment Act as well, which basically sets the tone for the legislation around children in the country. More recently, Cabinet approved the National Integrated ECD Policy in December 2015. And this is a very comprehensive, world-class policy that we have. But I will make some comments later on about implementation. Today, around 13 million vulnerable children get the basic child support grant, and it's 430 Rand per child per month. It's going up to, or it's just gone up to 450 Rand. And that is a child support grant that we never had before. And 13 million children are benefiting from that. And the research tells us clearly about the benefits. And then in October 2020, the president announced a 1.3 billion Rand ECD stimulus package. Now, that's got huge problems. Only about 12% of that has been spent 14 months later, but it's there. And I'll come back to some of the problems later on. So if we look at the situation of children in South Africa, the majority of young children under the age of 6 continue to live in poverty. And the poverty is not only in the rural areas, it's also in the informal settlements in the urban areas. Poor children live mainly in KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, and the Eastern Cape. And this poverty is directly linked to low levels of access to early childhood development. What that means is, if you're a middle-class family where parents are gainfully employed and you live in an urban area, you're more likely to have an early childhood opportunity for your children than if you lived elsewhere. So from the above, it's clear that there are challenges in providing early childhood development. And I want to run through some of those. Probably the biggest is early childhood development infrastructure. And what we mean here is that many early childhood centers function without the basic essentials: running water, electricity, sanitation. And poor infrastructure at ECD facilities presents significant health and safety risks for children. We know the infamous case of the young boy who fell into a pit latrine, aged 6 years old. He fell into a pit latrine and drowned. Sadly, that's happened not only once, but it's happened on a number of occasions. The most recent, a child falling down an open drain here in Cape Town. So infrastructure is a huge problem. Many of these centers are in wooden iron structures, too small, too many children, no ventilation, and a facility that is wholly unsuited for young children. The second challenge we face relates to the learning program and the qualifications of the ECD teacher. There is no monitoring of the quality of the learning program or of the skills of the teacher, other than by non-profit organizations such as World Vision and the Center for Early Childhood Development. If we look at the ECD workforce, it mirrors the advantage and disadvantage in this country. If your ECD center is in an upmarket or economically viable community, that ECD center will have a trained teacher and a good quality learning program. And where we have poverty and inequality, we find that the ECD teachers are untrained or undertrained, and that the learning component of the day is not what it should be. The third big element or big challenge is for young children, hunger, malnutrition, and food insecurity are significant challenges. And the effects of these we know are severe, particularly with COVID, where parental fees have not been coming in. Children have forgone or missed that main meal that they often get from their ECD center program during the day. And malnutrition, hunger has a profound effect on young children's ability to concentrate, to focus, and to complete complex tasks. The fourth challenge is early childhood development funding. And the biggest funder of early childhood development in South Africa are parents. Government funding comes mainly from social development, with a little bit from basic education. The subsidy is around 16 Rand per child per day. It varies. In some provinces, 17 Rand, and in other provinces, 15 Rand. And it's for 260 days in the year. By comparison, every prisoner in this country is subsidized to an amount of 400 Rand per prisoner per day for 365 days. So we can see where government's priority lies. 16 Rand for 264 days, and you need to qualify via a means test, versus a prisoner in prison who's getting 400 Rand spent on him by taxpayers for every single day of the year. And this gives you a really good idea of government's intention with early childhood development. It's wholly inadequate, 16 Rand per child per day. And then the fifth difficulty, which hopefully will be eradicated or removed when the function shift happens in April next year, that we've had two departments, both with some responsibility for early childhood development. And roughly it's been split. Birth to 4-year-olds has been the responsibility of social development, and children in grade R, the responsibility of basic education. That's broadly the responsibility. What's happening from the 1st of April next year is that Chapter 5 and Chapter 6 of the Children's Act about the building and about the learning program, those will move across to the Department of Basic Education. Various people have asked me, what do I think about it? And I answer in a rather cynical way as follows. The Department of Basic Education cannot do any worse than the Department of Social Development did, because their actions towards young children have really been appalling if we look at it honestly and openly. So what must our country do for our youngest children at this time going forward? In my view, the major challenge is the lack of political will of the South African government to implement its policy. And I want to record again that the National Integrated ECD policy is outstanding. It's world class. It was put together by mainly civil society activists. It is absolutely brilliant. It is never going to be implemented because the political will that we require is not there. And early childhood, somebody asked a question of Victoria about good quality programs around the world. The best one I can come up with alongside Palestine is Chile. And what happened in Chile is that the president at the time, Michelle Bachelet, she took early childhood development into her presidency, into her responsibilities. And the result was a system excellent in makeup and very, very comprehensive and wide in its coverage. But she led from the front, and we need that. We need a president who leads from the front in the interest of young children. We need a children's champion, and there's nobody better to do it than the president of a country. I think the second thing that we need is that we really need committed and talented public officials, and sufficient. Our National Social Development, the ECD Chief Directorate, has a few people in it, 4 or 5 people in it. That is totally inadequate if we want to meet the needs and the policies that are in the National Integrated Policy. So we need skilled and energetic government officials at national level, at provincial level, and at local government level. And then we need adequate funding. You know, you can tell a country's priorities by where its funding goes. Early childhood development receives less than 2% of the basic education budget. The national allocations for young children is shocking. It is really marginal and makes up very little of what is done for children. And then coming closer to home, the non-profit sector itself lacks substantial capacity and resources to provide programs under this policy and to significantly increase the numbers of children benefiting. So we need to fix those. In conclusion, there is global evidence and agreement that quality ECD programs bring significant changes, social change, educational change, and economic benefits to young children, their families, and the communities. It's clear that if we do not get ECD policy and programming right, then the lives of millions of young children across South Africa will be adversely affected before they begin formal schooling. Whilst they are in formal schooling and into adulthood, we see the dropout rates in the early years of schooling, and we see the tremendous drop-off later on in grade 10, and especially of girls. So we cannot allow this to continue. The The late Oliver Tambo made a profound statement many years ago when he said, a country or a nation that forgets its children does not deserve its future. And my question to all of us is, do we deserve our future? Are we providing for young children what they need? Thank you for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Eric, thanks so much. It was truly remarkable. Those stats that you have spoken about are quite frightening. I think you started off by talking about 30 million children who are getting the benefits of the 450 Rand child grant. And then, of course, you spoke about that frightening statistic about what we spend on prisoners versus what we spend on children. I was just thinking that I don't recall one political party in these local elections making the child prominent in their manifesto or any of their campaigning, which is a frightening thought about it. And perhaps to counter your quote that you just gave there, if we're not prepared to spend money on the children, then we actually get the future we deserve. So as individuals, we understand the need for political will, but we sit here, there's probably 26 of us on this call. What can we do as individuals? What can we do from our own homes to drive the need for early childhood development? What are the things that we can do to perhaps lobby local government, or just in our own homes and the people work in our homes, giving them access, providing money? What do you think are some of the key things that as private individuals can get going with in this regard?
Bruce, I'll come to that now, but you picked up on something where you spoke about political parties and their manifestos, nothing about early childhood development. We've just come through a local government election, and we took the manifestos from the four big parties, the African National Congress, the DA, the Economic Freedom Fighters, and the Good Party. And I read each of those manifestos and tried to understand what mention is there of children and of early childhood development. Now, collectively, those manifestos were about 150 pages. The EFF's manifesto was 90 odd pages, and other parties were less. Not once in any of those political parties' manifestos was the words early childhood development. Not once. Some of them did talk about children, but in relation to the Labour Party had a mayoral candidate. The ANC didn't announce their mayoral candidates yet, but their elections manager spoke to us. So we've got on public record, we've got video, and I'm happy to send it to you to distribute. We've got a 10-minute video of the four political parties making their commitment to early childhood development. And this brings me to your second question. What can we do? I think the first thing is hold those political parties, elected councillors, MECs, members of provincial legislature, and members of the of parliament to the promises they make. And in these videos, we'll see that although it's not in the manifesto, when they're on public display, they've brought in all sorts of early childhood development speak. That's the first thing. We have to hold our elected officials to account. But I also think, we all work in a business. We work in a business, a company. Some of these companies, like in the retail sector, have tens of thousands of employees. Those employees can also become activists. My dream is that every citizen one day is an activist for children. And we need to get that message out there. The message that Victoria mentioned in her talk about the importance of early childhood development. and how we are building a better society if we intervene in those early years. And as Victoria mentioned, it happens during pregnancy, during the first 2 years, and then as children enter into ECD centers and into formal schooling. So I think in our own homes, we must be activists. We've now got about 10,000 new councillors who've just been either elected or re-elected. Every one of us lives in a ward. Every one of us can phone.
Of him talking about what he's done, and his research is going to be essential for what we do going forward. So, Eric, I know that you're exceptionally busy. We really value your, I think, above all, your passion for the children of our nation. And I just love what you're doing, and thank you so much. And we look forward to connecting more in the future. We're now going to move on to have a look or to listen to two amazing people who are in the trenches, making sure that we get to implement all of the things that we can talk about in theory, but what's actually happening on the ground. So our next speaker is Nolene Grayling. Nolene is a manager in the communication and stakeholder engagement team at Zutari. So Zutari is a significant global engineering company that has probably designed many of the civil engineering infrastructure that you perhaps drive on or sit in or use the gold that comes out of the mines they've designed, etc. She's currently seconded to the Impact Catalyst, which she will talk about in her talk. She's got extensive experience in social research, community development, stakeholder engagement, impact assessment, and resettlement planning. She's been involved in various projects and programs across the African continent, and she's passionate and committed to advancing rural and regional social economic development, and drives collective impact by providing a platform through the Impact Catalyst where diverse partners sharing a common interest can collaborate and address complex social issues. So Nolene, it's wonderful to have you join us today, and over to you. And I just want to remind, if anybody has questions that they want to ask Nolene or any of our previous speakers, just drop them in the chat and we will get to that. Thanks, Nolene. Over to you. You're on mute. And you're still on mute. No. So excuse the technical challenges, everyone. I'm sure it will come right in the moment. It's so interesting how everybody understands the impact that early childhood development has and the need for it. And I think what's shocking around the first two speakers, and I think what we see in reality, is how little is being done in it. And if you travel our country like me and many of my colleagues do to these rural areas, you'll see so much of what's been spoken about, just the lack of facilities, how there will just be a simple building. People are trying their best, but they need more. We need the tools. We need the education for the educators and for the facilitators in there. And I think that's something that you and I can do. We can ask ourselves, how do we contribute here? How do we contribute financially? How do we contribute through how we lobby our local government, as we've just been spoken about? But how do we find those organizations that are doing things? So World Vision is just one of many in South Africa that are involved in early childhood development. And I want us to really start to promote accessing these partners. And how do we fund these partners? How do we get our corporates to fund these partners? Because this is our future. And if we don't look after the children, if we don't put these building blocks in place, what right, as we've just spoken about, do we have to a different future? Nolene, I see you back. Are you able to connect to us with your sound?
Hi, Bruce.
Perfect. Great.
Okay. Don't know what happened because I wasn't on mute and I was muted. So thank you very much, Bruce, for that introduction. I'm sorry about my hoarse voice. The big C also got to us, but we are all fine. I'm just prone to laryngitis, so that is why I sound like this. But I'm very excited to be here. And I want to thank the previous speakers as it fits in perfectly with what I'll be talking about and how we actually can take on this challenge that Eric has spoken about. So, so for me, early childhood development, and I really like the UNESCO definition of it. And it says it's an integrated concept that cuts across multiple sectors, just like Victoria spoke about, including health and nutrition, education, and social protection. And then it also refers to our children's physical, cognitive, linguistic, and socio-emotional development. And what does this really mean for us? I want you to please use the chat box and really maybe unpack and help me unpack this. What does this mean? What do we need to do? Also as government, as private sector, as educators, how do we overcome the challenges of the infrastructure, of the learning program quality, as well as the capacity of our ECD practitioners? How do we overcome the nutrition, the health, the safety of our children? And who do you think is responsible for ensuring that our children receive quality early development? And if I say quality early development, it really means all that was mentioned in that definition, and maybe even more. So I have a quick poll for you. So I'm going to launch the poll, and just quickly tell me, who do you think is responsible?
So on the right-hand side there, you'll see something that says polls, and you should be able to answer.
Thanks, Bruce. Yes. Just go to polls, and then you can see the question, and then you can see some of the answer. Okay, I'm going to almost close it down. So let's give 10 seconds. Because it's really important that we think about who need to jump in. And then we need to look at how we're going to do this. So I'm going to end the poll. Let's see. Okay, so 30% of you guys said it's the parents, really the parents' responsibility. And yes, I agree, it is. And then 70% of you said all of the above, which is, yes, the parents play a big role. But if we do not jump in, and especially in rural communities, and we get people to collaborate in order to tackle these challenges, we will not succeed. So we did the poll. So why is it important that we work together? And I really like this proverb. It takes a village to raise a child. It really does. And to raise a good child, to raise a child that will really go out in the world and really impact it and their surroundings positively. So let's see. I truly believe that the future is ours to change. So just like Eric said, how many people or pupils and children and school children do not finish school? If we think of those statistics, it's really, really bad. And then also, how many children, because of poverty, do not have access to quality education and the support services they need, and safety. And again, if I say quality education, quality is a really bad word or difficult word to define, because quality could mean anything for everyone. But it really means everything that those children need in order to become a whole human and in order to move forward in the world. Then we really at the Impact Catalyst strive for collective impact, because together we can do a lot more. We can, if you think, what can one person do, or one organization? How much money can one department or one institution or really provide in order to tackle a problem? But if you pull together the resources, like the knowledge, the skills, the funding, how big can that impact not be? And then need to take our ownership. So we need to enable our communities to take ownership of their own future. Yes, we have the skills, the knowledge, the funding, but at the end, just like Victoria said, we need to pull out of a community, be able to pull out of the community, and that community still goes forward, and they run these centers, these programs sustainably. So maybe we need to look at multi-use centers where during the day it's used as a creche or a early childhood development care and educational center. But then in the evening, how can we reuse that and really provide an asset for the communities in order to use, and in order to also develop them provide them the opportunity to create their own future. And then lastly, it is really to create a safe and balanced environment for our children. And there I must agree, we all need to be activists for our children. That's really well said, Eric, and I totally agree. And if we can take it even further on the ground and have a community-orientated or community-based program or way of doing things, it is really important. And I also strongly agree that nutrition is key. We need to really empower our communities in order to provide nutrition for them. And then I agree with the integrated early childhood development policy. It needs to provide a protective, buffering, and strong and supportive caregiving for our children. Now, how can we do this? I am a big believer of going to the ground and seeing what is there. And I totally agree. I noted it here with Moruti. The modules that we use should be very cultural sensitive. And we do not go into these communities and just from the top down and say, okay, we have this internationally really well-written model for the different stages of early childhood development, and we are going to implement it here. No, we first need to do that situation analysis and see what's on the ground, because, and it's the asset-based community development approach. Nobody has nothing, everybody has something. So we need to see what do they have and leverage on that. So we need to go down and see what assets, what skills do these communities have. And if I talk about assets, it's not just infrastructure. It's not just the knowledge and the skills. It is really our community's passions, our community's environmental assets, our community's social networks and social assets, as well as the corporates that's really active in that community. What are they able to bring to the party? Then next, we need to, like I said, have a community-based approach. And this is really to see what's on the ground, pull them in throughout all the stages, not just come and do our analysis and then come back and say, okay, this is what we observed. We spoke to a little bit of some people, but we did some engagements, we did some analysis, and we think as the experts that this model tweaked a little bit will work here. No, we need to identify the people that we can take along the journey that really represents the community. And that will also provide at the end the ability for us to pull out of that community, and the community take ownership, not just responsibility. Yes, we want them to take responsibility of their own well-being and health and education. No, we want them to take ownership of it. So therefore, we need to take the right people along the journey, and they will be able, if we do that, they will be able to assist if there's any mistrust in the community, any glitches, any people that need to be informed, because the community will be part of that process. So they will feel that they own the process and be able to almost not tell, but preach this and really buy in. And the next one, and this this is aligned with what Eric talked about, and this is collaboration and aligning with government. It is crucial. If we do not align and get the government to collaborate with us and pull them along the journey, we will not be able to be sustainable, because that's a really crucial part of the sustainability element, is that government are enabled in order to support the community not just when we are busy and implementing this and putting up this models of ECD, but also when we pull out, so that they still keep on supporting these communities. And then lastly, collaborating and aligning with corporates. So at the moment, we work in areas where there's large industries and even small industries that's active in a community. We need to take them also along the journey, because they have also knowledge and skills that we can really use in the communities. I always talk, when I go into a community, I don't want the tourist information of this community. I want the inside information. And if you are able to get all the parties on board and take them along on the school bus, then you will be able to implement a model that is really sustainable. Our corporates have brilliant knowledge and skills out there. They have, a lot of the time, the will and the funding to put behind your programs. But you need to engage them early and take them along the journey, so that they also can take ownership of it. Otherwise, they will sometimes be less inclined to participate. So we need to engage, but truly engage on almost a heart-to-heart. Get the community, the government, the private industries, institutions to collaborate, and then we need to empower. So Bruce said that I'm seconded to the Impact Catalyst, and I want to tell you a little bit more about them. We are really an MPO, basically, and so a non-profit organization, but also a public beneficiation organization. So we are a platform that was founded by Anglo-American, Exaro, the CSIR, World Vision, and Zutari. And this really enabled us, using these institutions and corporates, to deliver socioeconomic change on a regional scale. So we look at programs. We do projects where we pilot basically our programs, and then we scale it up. It's all about, we really like to do projects that are scalable and replicable. So at the moment, we are active in Limpopo, Northern Cape, and Mpumalanga. We are launching formally next year the Mpumalanga province, but we are already busy in it. We also have some projects in the Northwest, and then we have a lot of interest in the Free State as well. So this has the potential to go big, because we work towards one vision. So our vision and purpose is to establish inclusive, collaborative, cross-sectoral platforms, really for initiatives and partnerships to achieve systemic socioeconomic impact through what we call public-private partnerships. We really take from the top the SDGs, the National Development Plan, the provincial development plans. We are actually in the forefront of assisting to develop with the provincial government to develop these provincial plans, as well as now the district development models. We are also assisting them to the districts to develop those models. And then we go to the local municipality, I would say planning documents like the IDPs and things like that. And then because a lot of our partners are mining partners, we look at how we can align the SLPs, the social and labor plans. We have large corporations like Anglo American, Exaro, and in the Northern Cape we have ASMANG, as well as in the Mpumalanga, South 32, Kudumani, and things like those big guns partnering with us. So we are in the process of aligning those SLPs. So so that we can really assist these mines to create collaborative impact. So and I'm very glad to say that in the Northern Cape, ECDs are a top priority for our partners. So we are in the process of aligning their projects that they want to initiate in Northern Cape in order for us to get government on board, truly get government on board. And I can say the Office of the Premier is also one of our key partners in all of our provinces. And because the CSR is a founding member, we have access and to a lot of government institutions, and they trusted access. So we are looking to create a really big ECD program across the Northern Cape, as well as Limpopo, and World Vision is assisting in that. And like I mentioned, our initiatives are really designed to leverage collaboration for collective impact, and then be cross-sectoral. It's so important that we take into consideration the different sectors. And as impact catalysts, we do not focus on just education or just health, but we have like education, health, manufacturing, ICT. We are rolling out Wi-Fi access and infrastructure across the Northern Cape and Limpopo for more than 250 schools. Now, what can this mean for the community? Because the community can link up with these. And that is really what we strive to do, is to get people around the table. And at the Impact Catalyst, I'm leading the stakeholder and community engagement and marketing. And what I've seen is you just need to get people around the table and get them talking, and especially government. There are really, I can say, really good government officials out there. We just need to identify them and leverage on their skills and their capacity. Okay, some of our key success factors. We really strive for true partnerships, people-centered, and then we have dependable processes and sound governance. So for example, our ECD, World Vision has been busy with early childhood development programs for years. So it is sound processes and models. So, and that's where the CSR also comes into play. They assist us greatly in stipulating what are the right ways of implementing certain projects. What are the new ways, the 4IR ways? How can we combine community-based programs or way of doing with 4IR projects? One of those are the learning factories where a mine has a life. So what happens when that mine closes? What happens to the employees who have built their careers and can do one thing, almost like a driver, like a very specific instrument driver? How can we reskill them, not just to work at another mine in another area, but how can we assist them to initiate and implement something in their own communities? And then we deliver impact. And then some of our goals. So our goals, goal 1 is really impact. We are there to make impact collaboratively. And then, like I said, goal number 2, collaborative. And 3, we want to be a catalyst. So we don't want to go into an area and implement something and keep on staying in the area. We want to give our communities the power and for them to take ownership of their own future. And then we are all about sustainability. It needs to be able to just go on and evolve. We will, if we see we need to go back and assess because there came new opportunities and we keep in touch with our communities and our stakeholders, then we can assist them to evolve and assist them to be sustainable. It's long-term relationships. Right, so let me quickly touch on the Impact Catalyst proposed ECCD, so it's Early Childhood and Care Development Program. And I've touched on some of these things previously, and firstly, you need to do a situation analysis. You need to take into consideration the culture, what assets they have, what needs they have, what interests, what priorities, what resources, and what type of stakeholders are active in the community and around the community that we can pull in. And then also assess government support and how active they are, and maybe align with their proposed development on a local municipality level, on a district municipality, and see how we can align our projects and programs in order to pull in them. And then we need to also, as phase 1, do a blueprint planning. And this is where we take everything that we got out of the situation analysis and really get a fit for purpose ECCD program or project for that area. And in this, we also, like I said, identify our partners, because partnerships is key. Because that can, if you identify the partnerships at too late of a stage, they come in and they change your planning, they influence your planning, and then you need to redo. So that's why you need to take partners on the journey from the start. Okay, phase 2, and that's the capacity of our centers as well as our practitioners. So we really need to see what is there. And this phase 2 will be informed by a micro facility level, meso, local, sectoral level, and a macro, regional, national level, and the dynamics that play in there. And then we will really contextualize our solutions in order to really try and solve these problems and challenges for our local community ECD centers. And then phase 3, and this is only when we implement. Okay, so that is where we implement and apply the World Vision Gold Standard ECCD models. And Victoria went really great, told us all about these models, and it's really amazing to see what impact these models have on the communities. And these core components of the World Vision ECD models, we will only be able to implement them successfully if we work together. And then phase 4, evaluation and monitoring is key. If we do not have our finger on the pulse, it can go bad and it can go wrong. So we need to see if there's validate any outcomes. We need to change, we need to be agile, and we need to really see how we can sustainably implement these models. And then lastly is the vision of Impact Catalyst is to scale and to replicate. So we will then scale and replicate these proof of concepts across the whole of South Africa. We're starting, like I said, in the Northern Cape and in Limpopo, where our partners have identified through their SLP programs, ECD centers that they want to bring to this program. Some of these centers already have infrastructure. So we need to then just see if this infrastructure is fit for purpose. Others, they don't have anything, but they know they've done their analysis that they know that there's a need. So then we will need to provide infrastructure as well, which is exciting because you can then have a input from the beginning of how these centers look, and yeah, that's very exciting. All right, I just want to say thank you very much for this opportunity, and yeah, together we can achieve greatness. And I want to also echo what Eric said, and let's be the enablers of political will, and let's be the activists for our children. I've put in the videos section, I've put in a video of the Impact Catalyst and how we work. So if you want to see it, you can also look on our website, and then I will give over back to Bruce, and yeah, so let's, and the World Vision team.
Thanks, Nolene. Really appreciate that. So perhaps an unfair question, but I'm going to ask it nonetheless. So these partnerships that has to happen between public and private enterprises. Typically, what you see is that private enterprise, so corporates are running on a 12-year budget. Everyone involved is looking to hit their targets and get their bonuses and all of those in a 12-month space. The reality is the solution to ECD programs is far longer term than just 12 months. So how do you suggest we get that balance between working with corporates who are looking at the short term and the need for a long-term engagement, so that we really lay a solid and unbreakable foundation?
Thanks, Bruce. Yes, absolutely. I agree. It's really difficult sometimes to align those timeframes, but luckily programs can be broken up in phases. So basically you would get into the corporates for a certain phase of the project, and through building that trust, you will be able to get other partners on board for the other phases, or these corporates can then take a lifelong journey with you. So I think it is really, and that's, but what I've seen also happen is because we are able to align government and get government's buy-in and support, and large corporations like Anglo and Exaro, other corporations are so much more willing to also be in for the long haul. And so, but if it's not possible, break your program or your project down in phases and sell the phase and say, okay, and sell the impact. Impact sells. So sell the impact and say, okay, look at what, and that's where monitoring and evaluation is key, because you need to be able to show what the impact were, and then they can buy in for the next phase, because they know and they can see, they can physically see. So tell that story. So that's why the narrative is also very important. Tell that story, and then they will be able to buy in again.
Thanks so much, Nolene. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for those insights, and thank you for crediting the good work that we think World Vision is doing, and we look forward to a long relationship, multi-year and long term. We're now going to jump over to Nozuko. Nozuko is really at the coalface of what happens in these vulnerable communities. Nozuko works for World Vision. She holds a BA in social work. And she's currently studying towards her honors in development studies. She sees herself as a catalyst, community mobilizer, community change agent, and partnership broker, facilitating the emergence and strengthening of community-led initiatives and innovations to improve and sustain the well-being of children and their families through educational, livelihoods, food security, and health activities. And it's just wonderful for me to welcome somebody who's so important to our culture and the impact that we do have. So, Nozuko, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Bruce. Good morning, everyone. As Bruce has already indicated, my name is Nozuko Yvonne, but not Yvonne Chaka Chaka, Yvonne Geisman, a development facilitator for World Vision, based in our office in Eastern Cape, Middle Drift, known as Gongobe within World Vision. So mine for today is to share the impact of our work as World Vision in South Africa. So I will start with my presentation, and like Eric, will try my level best to make sure that I stick to the 15 minutes that have been allocated to me. Please feel free to write your questions on the chat. So as colleagues had already indicated, the importance of working with partners, working with communities in ECD. World Vision is a child-focused organization, and we are committed to working with partners, as this will assist to ensure that there is sustainability in the work that we do. Even if as an office we are no longer there, communities will be able to continue to function and contribute towards early childhood development on their own. And it's important for us to involve them, because this contributes towards a sustained well-being of children within their families and communities, especially the most vulnerable. And as an organization, we also understand that children are most vulnerable in their early years, and that malnutrition at times can have a long-term impact on young children's development, and disease and accidents tend to claim the most lives during the early years. And coming to ECD, early childhood development, what we've come to observe is that the perception most of the time is that people think of constructing of preschools for children in the age of between the ages of 3 to 5. However, early childhood development is much, much more than that. There are various aspects that fit into it. So a focus on ECD ensures that children are healthy, and that they are well nourished, and that they are able to bond to their primary caregivers, and are able to interact and communicate well with others, and they are ready to start school. And a focus on early childhood development, it lays a foundation for a successful development of a child. And we also understand that early childhood development, it can assist to improve the health, it can assist to improve the prosperity, as well as the quality of life for populations and as well as countries. And coming to today's discussion as ECD, as investment in human capital, we are saying as World Vision that ECD as an investment in human capital, it can help to contribute towards the quality early learning, as it helps children to grow smarter, and it prevents the achievement gap in life. I think all of us are aware of some of the challenges that we currently face as the country, especially towards issues related to literacy as well as numeracy. And you might find that when you look or when you analyze, looking at people that struggle with literacy and numeracy, you will find that when you go back towards their early childhood development or learning, you will find that the foundation was not stable, or the resources that were available at the time did not allow them to have access to good early childhood development. And it also contributes to quality early learning, can boost a lifetime of earnings. And research continually shows that children who receive early childhood educational opportunities are more successful on average as they continue in their educational and professional futures. And ECD also prepares children for school, and it helps them to complete more years of education. I think it was Eric who touched on the dropout stats with regards to children in school. So children who received a good quality early childhood development are more prepared to continue and complete their education throughout their schooling year, whether it's primary or high school or university. And quality consistent childcare, it helps parents to be able to grow their income. And we continue to say here that today, many families with young children must make a choice between spending a significant portion of their income on childcare or finding a cheaper but potentially lower quality care option, or leaving the workforce altogether to become a full-time caregiver, which can have a negative impact in most families, as we know that most families are led by women. So if a mother is unable to work because they cannot find a center or a place where their children can have access to good ECD, then it means they are unable to work as a parent and be able to provide for their child. And investment in ECD has the highest returns for a country. And what we mean by this is that the rate of return on investment in quality education development for disadvantaged children is 7 to 10% per annum. And this can be achieved through better outcomes in education, health, sociability, economic productivity, and reduced crime. And other studies as well, they also show that high quality birth to 5 programs can deliver a 13% return on investment. And continuing on today's topic, colleagues, I think we are all aware of, apologies. I think we are all aware of the NDP 2030 for South Africa. And investing in ECD can also contribute towards reaching some of the goals listed in the NDP 2030. And it can also assist towards the reduction of inequality, poverty, and other social and economic challenges that hinder human development. And some of these challenges also include violence against women and children, as well as absent parents and access to health and education-related services, as well as malnutrition. So this requires the strengthening of service delivery, such as your ECD services. And I think colleagues earlier also referred to the SDG goals. And if we were to invest as a country towards ECD, it will also assist us to also play our role towards contributing to the SDG goals, towards reducing poverty and improving of well-being. I will not touch much, colleagues, on the Avio World Vision's approaches as well as models, because Victoria has already touched on that. But our main 4 focuses as World Vision, even World Vision South Africa, is that we work towards ensuring that children are able to enjoy good health, they are educated for life, and they have the experience, love of God and neighbor, and that they are cared for and protected, and they are able to participate towards initiatives or activities that are meant to contribute towards ECD. So it's not a matter of us as World Vision leading the process, but we also ensure that in developing our DIPs, we ensure that we get views from children within the communities that we serve, and to contribute towards these outcomes. World Vision partners, works with various partners, works with communities, works with community departments. And we've got some of the approaches that are listed here, which I will not go into, as I've stated that Victoria has already touched on them. And these are some of the approaches towards early childhood development for World Vision: parenting, center-based childcare, as well as preschools. So we acknowledge that it's not going to have a positive impact in communities if we focus too much towards the early childhood centers where our children attend, and we do not have parenting classes, and we do not attend to the health and nutrition as well as the spiritual development of children. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. There are various aspects, as I've indicated earlier, that fit into early childhood development. And these are some of the interventions as World Vision SA that we've undertaken to play our part towards early childhood development. As I've stated, that these efforts focus on nutrition, they focus on water, they focus on health, sanitation and hygiene, known as WASH, They focus on education as well as social protection, which I will be sharing in my other slides. When we speak of nutrition as World Vision, what we've done is we've partnered with some of the banks within South Africa, such as your Nedbank, your ABSA, your Standard Bank, where we received funding to provide food parcels to communities, especially during the time of COVID. I think we are all aware of the negative impact that COVID has had on businesses, and most people have lost their jobs and were unable to provide for their families, especially children, as we know that they are the most vulnerable in such situations. So we were able to distribute food parcels to communities, as well as cooking utensils for early childhood development centers, as well as seedlings for food gardens. Now, the reason we focused on also seedlings for food gardens is that we understand that simply distributing food parcels is not sustainable. Therefore, it's important for us to partner with organizations such as Exaro so that communities can be encouraged towards establishing their own food gardens so that they are able to grow their own food and not rely to external partners or to external funding. And we've also focused on health, and we've worked with partners such as your Department of Health to ensure that children have access to healthcare within their own communities. And we've also embarked on campaigns with AMREF as well as the OH to encourage parents to ensure that they immunize their children. And so far, we've reached over 600 children, but the number will increase as we continue because this is an ongoing campaign for this year as well. So I think we are all aware that in areas such as your Limpopo, your Eastern Cape, accessing healthcare care can be a challenge because people live in deep rural areas where at times they have to travel for long distances to make sure that they have access to health. So we've played our part. As you can see on the picture on the left, this is a mobile clinic that was distributed by World Vision in one of the villages where we work in Middle Drift. So Department of Health from time to time visits the community to ensure that their children, as well as the community at large, have access to healthcare services. And these mobile clinics have also assisted towards the mobilization of communities to uptake the COVID vaccine. Continuing with some of our interventions, we've also distributed hygiene kits in communities as well as schools. We've also partnered with UNICEF and EU and installed water tanks as well as hand washing stations, as well as flushing toilets for ECDs. I think Eric touched earlier that a while back there was a case where a young learner was injured because there was no toilet at school, and we see it fit that it's important to ensure that the early childhood centers have flushing toilets for the safety of children. We've also gone as far as drilling boreholes. And one of the challenges experienced whilst drilling was that you would find, because there is water scarcity in Eastern Cape, that the areas where the boreholes are drilled are quite far from the communities. But we've gone as far as World Vision to ensure that the water is brought closer to the community and trying to ensure that children don't have to risk their life traveling to places that are far away to access water. We've also done TP-TAP activations as well as capacity building using a model or an approach called a FAST within World Vision. And with regards to social protection colleagues, we usually partner with other community CPOs as well as government departments such as your Department of Social Development to create awareness on child protection issues amongst caregivers and community members. We work towards also strengthening community systems and society to protect all children, especially young children, from physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. So we also train duty bearers so that they are able to establish child protection forums within their own communities where matters related to children are discussed, because you'll find that in most forums, the challenges that are discussed are related to adults and not necessarily cover the issues that children deal with. We supported children to register for births in order for them to have access to social grants. We did this through funding from Nedbank as well as ABSA. We have also provided psychosocial support for children and their families, as well as campaigns in partnership with social development on parenting skills for caregivers, because what we've also observed whilst we work on the field is that it doesn't help for us to have awareness campaigns in school, and then a child must go back home to an environment that is not conducive for them to grow up in. So it's important for us that we also empower parents with parenting skills so that they are able to look after their children. And we also provided preschool teachers with guidance and standards for how to create safe environments. This was done through distribution of first aid kits as well as fire extinguishers. And not only distributing these items, but also ensuring that we train the ECD teachers so that they are able to use them and they are able to attend to learners within their centers should something happen whilst the learners are at school or whilst they are waiting for assistance. And we've also done capacity building for our stakeholders so that they improve coordination and responding towards disasters, especially in the Eastern Cape. We've had lots of challenges with disasters, but the coordination was a bit of a challenge, leaving children from vulnerable communities and backgrounds in danger. So the capacity building was meant to assist our stakeholders so that they are able to coordinate themselves much better whilst responding to disasters. The following 2-3 slides, colleagues, the number of beneficiaries that we've reached through our programs. We have reached children through spiritual nature activities. We've managed to reach children so that they are able to build trust as well as communicate with their parents, because at times communicating between children and parents can be a bit of a challenge because they are unable to relate. So we've had activities and programs that empower children so that they are able to communicate with their parents, and they are also able to communicate with their peers. And what we usually do as World Vision is that we train peer educators that are able to go back to other children within the schools so that they empower them with the skills, with the knowledge that they have gained from all the trainings that they have attended. And we have children also that have participated meaningfully towards activities that assist in ending violence against children. And as I've stated earlier, that it's important for us to empower children so that they participate. They are not merely people that are standing on the side and watching all the activities that are taking place within their communities. We want them to be able to participate towards decision-making, towards the changes that happen within their communities. We've also trained parents in celebrating families so that they are able to address child protection issues. And we've also trained community members so that they are able to respond to child protection incidents. Even today, there's still challenges in some of our communities where you'll find that if there's an incident of abuse or of rape, it's not reported within the community. They want to resolve it or to talk about it at community level and not follow what the law says. So we've managed to capacitate our traditional leaders, our faith leaders, as well as community members at large, so that everyone is able to play their role. And earlier, Eric spoke about accountability and the importance that each person must become an activist. So to address this challenge, we've empowered community members and engaged them in an approach called citizen voice and action, so that they are able to know what steps they need to take to hold their leaders accountable, to hold the government departments and other organizations within their communities accountable. This is to encourage communities so that we don't see people burning tires or burning buildings to address their challenges. So the CVA approach is meant to encourage community members to address challenges within their communities in a manner that is acceptable and that is within the law. And we have a total of 2,334 children between the ages of 3 and 6 years that are currently attending ECD centers. And in order to ensure that the ECD centers are able to accommodate these children, we've assisted them with learning material, we've assisted them with cooking utensils, as well as tables and chairs. I also noted a comment that was coming from Jeffrey Katuruza from Rural Tech, where he was stating that some schools in the rural KwaZulu-Natal had no classrooms and they have no toys and are not exposed to ICT. So as World Vision South Africa, we have ECD centers that we've supported with computers so that children continue to be exposed to ICT at a young age, because for most rural children, you'll find that they are only exposed to such when they go to a school at an urban area. If they are based in a rural area, you'll find that such items are not easily available. And we've also assisted children in schools in a learning facility to ensure that they have a basic drinking water source, and that they also have access to basic hand washing facilities within their education facilities. Now, one of the challenges we've had, especially in the area where we are based, including Umbashe as well, you'll find that at times schools are required to close because there's no water. So to play our part, we distributed hand washing stations and worked hand in hand with the municipalities, with the local councillors, so that they are able to ensure that those hand washing stations don't simply become white elephants within the schools, that the municipality is able to deliver water to these schools. Before I go to my closing remarks, I've got a video that I would like to share that shows some of the work that we have done as World Vision South Africa in one of our area programs.
Otoma ECD, it's very heavy. Why? Because I want to see lo, I want to take and nevana, but on the jivaji. And again, a little ratolabana, Gratabana, Rail Urgudulivona, a Grata Lurgunova, Bakitima, Strating, Cavagalarbana, Havaidi, Creche. Oh, Malaysia didn't like a fish like a Mucrechen. But now send a fish like no one or Cavalletavo.
Most of the parents are working in the farms, and the children, they don't have anyone who's looking after them at home. We realized the need that was there.
Gun 9, Rafa breakfast. Monday, Rafa soft porridge. Labo vedi, Rafa eastern porridge. Labo raru, Rahona jungle oats. Le go prepare la bana ga bana ba ya sekolong, le go ruta bana gore bana ba kgone go develop physically, emotionally, le bo cognitive ka mogolo la bana ba develop go ka gona re le ka go thusa bana ka mogolo.
The ECD was new and they were sitting under the tree. World Vision decided to make sure that we get them a building whereby they can do the learning activities.
There is no register ka social. Ke ile ka kwa ke thabile ka kudu go ya ka mo go ba thusi go karolo e ba di je go yona. Ke ile ka leboga ka matla. Taba golo e golo ke gore re keep bana ba be safe. And we
also surrounded the yard with the fencing. Children are innocent and I love them very much, and that's my passion to see them progressing in life. When they are there, I can say that those ladies are playing a very critical role within the lives of these children.
Le ga bana ba etla go ja motsegare no ba ke thabile ka re go ja go thaba gore bana ba ka ke ba tlhokometse a ba bile ba magae a ba ne problem le nna ke ile ka no gona go no gapeletša go no mafelelone ka baka la gore rena ka se rena ba re go lwantwa ke go kgotlelela re tlo feleletša re fitlheletše.
Thank you for watching, everyone. Let me quickly go back to my slides. Apologies for that. And in closing, colleagues, as I had stated earlier, I just wanted to share that video so that you are able to see some of the work that we are doing as World Vision South Africa in our area programs in Limpopo. So as my closing remark, I just want to read this statement that I saw somewhere, that before building a permanent house, it is necessary to lay the foundation to support the entire structure. We do not begin building a house at the second floor. Before a child enters primary school, a similar foundation must be laid. So I think this statement is self-explanatory, that we can't expect to have children that are successful, that are able to learn and complete their education, but we have not invested in giving them a foundation that can support them throughout their lives. So to improve the economy, strengthen the middle class, and lift people out of poverty, support working parents, and equip a country with quality citizens, it's important that we invest in our early childhood development. And as Eric stated earlier, it's important that we also learn to hold each other accountable towards the role that we are supposed to be playing. And with that, I would like to hand over to Bruce. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. So Nozuka, what a great job. It's interesting. So Nozuka's chosen such a beautiful background behind her with the trees and the lush grass. But if you've traveled to the Eastern Cape, you know that the Eastern Cape at the moment is one of the most water scarce places in South Africa, and the surrounding area where Nozuka works is anything but filled with grass and trees, and there's massive need in there. And it's so interesting that the Eastern Cape is a birthplace for so much of our political reform. Some of our greatest leaders, Nelson Mandela himself, that's his home, and yet the Eastern Cape remains one of the most under-resourced provinces in our country, and we absolutely need to rectify that. Guys, I know that we are at the end of our time. I don't want to take any more time than we've committed to, so we won't move on with a time of questions. But I just want to thank all of the panelists. The amount of information that you've shared with us has been fascinating. It's been inspiring. To be honest, it's actually been quite frightening, the amount of work that we have to do. But if anything, it's made me want to get up from this meeting now and say, what do I do now to raise the money and to get out into the field and make the difference in the lives of South Africans. So I also want to thank everybody who joined us today. It's been such a pleasure having you here. We'd love to engage with you further. So from World Vision's point of view, there's a number of ways you can engage with us, obviously on our website, and then across all of our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. YouTube's got some amazing videos of the work that we do there. So really, please connect with us, see how we can assist you in assisting this beautiful country of ours and making sure that what's required in our country actually comes to fruition. So thank you, everybody. It's really been wonderful having you on board. You're welcome to reach out with me. Actually, the easiest way is probably just to connect with me on LinkedIn. Bruce Lazell is my name, and see how we can go forward. Thank you to the panelists, and thank you for everyone for your time today. It's been wonderful. And we hope to see you again on our next one in the new year. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.